Hi guys. If you're thinking you look familiar, yeah, I'm wearing the exact same thing that I did in the last video because it's been 2 seconds, okay? So I just got finished reading A Deadly Education by Naomi Novik. This is the first book in a trilogy. The second one is The Last Graduate, and the third one is The Golden Enclaves. This book is pretty popular to my knowledge. I got the recommendation from a fantasy recommendations video on YouTube, I think. I don't remember what it was. I watch a lot. But a lot of people have recommended it, and it's a popular book. I didn't know anything about it going into it. I think the only explanation was a school that tries to kill you. And I knew it was like magic. So that intrigued me for sure. Now, the first part of it, I was like, but I actually ended up really liking it. I listened to it in one day. I think now Scholomance, I learned very recently after finishing it, is a fabled school of black. This is from Wikipedia. Fabled school of black magic in Romania, especially in the region of Transylvania. It is run by the devil, according to folklore accounts. And you learn how to like be a wizard and stuff in there. I had never heard of that before, so I didn't know much about it, but it has some things in common with Dracula. Anyway, I kind of was not envisioning things in my head because I generally don't, but it was well explained for something in a short amount of time, because the book is not too long. It was well explained for something that's like nobody has any frame of reference at all for it. I mean, it was like the thing she was explaining, I was like, I don't know what these words mean, but I still was kind of getting it. However, I'm fine with not a lot of explanation as far as how things look, because I don't do visualization. But in the end, I kind of had a less colorful, no ocean version of the pit of monsters from Moana. That's what I was envisioning the pit to be like of the monsters in this book, but less colorful than that, more dark and scary. I thought that so I'm just going to say I like this book a lot. I really liked it, especially the ending was so exciting. So I just really enjoyed the whole thing. I would suggest this to people who like fantasy, especially like a little bit easier to read fantasy. There have been some comparisons between Harry Potter. It was so different from Harry Potter. The magic system is way different. It's much more like bending than it is like wand magic. So I didn't really think of it to be much at all similar. They're in a school. There's not a lot of explanation. I mean, it's very like you jump into it. So it's different than Harry Potter in that sense, where they like really flesh things out and things are a little bit more easy to understand because you're like, Merlin magic. And this one you're like, I don't know what to compare this to. That's a cultural thing though, and I'm sure that maybe if this has a lot of similarities to Scholomance, this might be something that is more like easily understood, but into a Eastern European mind than mine. But I did not know what the heck was going on for the first part, and actually I didn't know what the heck was going on, period, for a long time. She just adds information as you go. Like at the end, I was still getting new information about the system of magic. But I liked the story, and I liked the main character a lot. And I also liked the guy, and I liked the hook at the very end, which I won't say, but it was good. Definitely I will be reading the next one, which, I did not know that this was not a standalone. I generally don't read, like fantasy series. I know that's like so dumb of me because I'm a really huge Harry Potter fan, and obviously I read that fantasy series at some point. And I used to blow through fantasy series like it was my job when I was, like a teenager, but I don't do that anymore because it's a big time investment. However, this book was pretty short, so it actually worked out, and I guess there's only 3 books, period, so I don't think it's too much of an investment, and you could know by the first one whether you like the world or not. I guess I could give a little overview for the beginning, just kind of a blurby overview. Essentially, they magic kids are at this school. There's only 4 years there. There's freshman through senior. And they move through the floors, and then at the end of senior year, they get dumped into this monster pit, and they have to fight their way out to the real world, and then they're done. But like, there's a lot of people die. A lot of people die. And like, the monsters are actually getting into the school and attacking you the entire time. And essentially the main girl's like getting attacked all of the time. And there's a little bit of a specialness about her, but I like her attitude. It wasn't like so savior-y. Actually, not at all. She's kind of a little bit of a neutral good, if that. And I don't know. I thought the dynamics were really interesting. So I was enjoying just kind of being like immersed in it. And it didn't take much thought. Maybe it was the way that she wrote or what, but I wasn't like, okay, let me think about how I want to fit this into I wasn't at all. I was like, oh, they have little monsters that will like get in through the vent on the floor. Okay, cool. Oh, they have like everywhere was a monster. If you go somewhere alone, they have all these rules. If you go somewhere alone, you're gonna get eaten. But if you go somewhere with everyone, you'll probably also get eaten. If you do this thing, if you don't have an alliance with this person, blah blah blah, or you're never gonna get this done, or you're gonna get behind the school this way if you do this thing. A lot of like rules. It's kind of interesting. There's no teachers or anything, so that's another different. The dynamic was very, and she actually mentions Lord of the Flies at one point and was like, it's not like Lord of the Flies. We just figure it out. We actually just do everything. We're actually fine. One more thing I wanted to say. It's obviously a different day. One of people's main complaints about this book is that it's like so world buildy. There's so much time spent explaining things, etc., etc. Now, that was not my experience. Now, nothing against the people who are saying that or thinking that. Maybe it's a different experience when you're reading it, because it maybe feels a little bit more like you're slogging through it. But I listened to it, and it just wasn't my experience. I felt that there was actually a lot of things that were not explained. Because of the way that she was writing it, it was more like, okay, so she was a junior at this school. It felt more like we were like a freshman who was tagging along that she was explaining everything to, rather than somebody who's never heard of this world before. Because many of the things she explained, like she waited until the final hour to even say anything about them. Like she forgot they were important. There was explaining throughout the book. It wasn't like the first chunk was like, oh, this is all world building and there's nothing else. It wasn't like that at all. You were learning as you go, which I find much more easily digestible. And I didn't mind not knowing whatever, the magic system or what it's like in the outside world or other things like that were not so important to me. She explained things like we already kind of knew a couple things, and I liked that. Like, it was like we were getting the inside scoop, because it felt like we are really with her. And she's telling us like, oh, and this is what I've learned. When it's like, you wouldn't be telling somebody who's never been in this world before, like, oh yeah, and I have this special thing that I do. Because you're being too busy explaining all of the like regular rules. She didn't spend that much time on regular rules. She spent like an equal amount of time on the regular rules as she did on the like things that this girl specifically does. So you honestly had less of an idea of like, wait, what are other people doing than you did of what she was doing. So I felt that you actually got kind of a small glimpse at this world. And I kind of liked that, because you can make up, you could fill in those gaps yourself, or you can wait until later books, and that leaves more, reason to read later books. But just to keep that in mind, if you're not so interested in world building, many people do say that they think that this is world building heavy. So do with that as you will. Now, another thing I wanted to say, which I didn't mention before, was like, when I was watching, I felt like the main character, and if you've read this, you'll know what I mean. When I was watching some reviews of this book, a lot of people were like, I loved the romance subplot, it was so cute, and it was so cute how she didn't know that he liked her. I didn't know that he liked her. So when in the final moments, when there was that reveal, I was like, oh my gosh, I was literally her. I was being her. So all in all, I enjoyed it a lot. Back to regular programming. I would recommend it as a fantasy. It's pretty easy to read. Probably YA fantasy read. I enjoyed it. And that is that. If you've read it, let me know what you thought. If you've read the next two, did they stand up? I'm really interested to read them. I will hopefully be getting into that soon. And I'm just loving being back and reading. I'm fresh off a really huge reading slump, as you may know if you saw my previous videos. So I'm absolutely so excited to have read this and then to continue reading this series. And yeah, let me know what you thought of it. And until next time.